why are we bringing all the operators and municipal service providers together, especially given the fact that they have very different needs and perhaps they're at very different levels of service delivery. But it's precisely because of the difference that you want to bring them together. The learning that happens between different parties who are at different levels of operational efficiency or institutional development, the learning is very important. The other thing which we fail to recognize, it's easy for me to go from one country and summarize those lessons to another country, but it doesn't have the same impact as when you bring the two operators of the different countries together. They come from the same set of challenges, and they can talk to each other. They can understand what risk did you take, what risk should one take. That level of exchange can best be done when people are brought together. And finally, service delivery is an intensely political affair. It's not a technical affair. So when you bring together a club of operators, you actually create political voice that can be heard by central governments and indeed by European Union leaders. And so the bringing together of the operators and municipal leaders is an important part of a political voice that I believe is needed. Often we think of water as something so important to our life. Why charge for it? Well, it turns out that if you charge for it, you actually create accountability. Citizens then say, if you're charging me for this, I'm going to demand that you provide services to me. So the charging not only offers revenues to sustain a product, it also creates channels of accountability. In many parts of the world, water is provided free. And I have come to the conclusion that the most expensive water in the world is, for poor people, is free water. Because when you give water free, the question is who's accountable for it? Who does the citizen hold accountable? And often when water is provided free, it's the middle class and politically powerful that capture it, and the poor are then left to buy water from private vendors or are lining up long hours in a queue to get water from perhaps poor quality sources. So tariffs in a model where you have accountability plays a very important role of linking the citizen to the operator and the citizen to the political leadership. You need to have clear roles and responsibilities between the municipality as a political owner and the operator as an independent provider. If the judge and jury are the same, then the citizen can't distinguish who's accountable for what. There's a lot of sharing that needs to be done. Some have already entered the EU. How have they been able to deal with the EU standards? Others are getting ready. How should they prepare themselves? This learning can't be done in abstract. This learning comes from seeing how others have done it. I think there's also a very important issue is entering the EU at a level of certain standards implies that you have to have institutions that grow in different countries that can meet that standard. And our role is to help countries understand what that institutional evolution could look like. It's not simply just a question of putting money behind infrastructure, putting money behind wastewater treatment to achieve EU regulation. It's about saying what type of accountable institutions of service delivery do you create? And that is something that you can only learn as a joint co-created process. So what I'm hearing from the water operators and the municipal leaders is we want more of this learning. But not only within the Danube region itself, the demand is for cross-learning across the world. And it's a two-way learning always. It's a two-way learning always. I think there are many lessons to take away from this experience in the Danube region. First is there is a partnership between municipalities and water providers, which means that this is service delivery at the local level, where political leadership of municipal mayors, local government leaders have a relationship with operators. This model of local service delivery, I think, is a very important model, and understanding how it works in the Danube region has a lot of lessons for the rest of the world. Traditionally, when we look at the Danube region, we would assume that all service delivery issues have been solved. And yet, they haven't. So it's a very important, shall we say, pause, why a region which in effect is quite developed relative to, say, South Asia or Africa, still has problems of service delivery, and in particularly reaching the last mile, the 22 million or so people who are not within the ambit of the type of service delivery that the rest of the countries have. And how do you achieve this last mile is something that we would be looking to see what this partnership can deliver. So many lessons to take to the rest of the world.